Yeah. Running not only it. Hey, Terrain.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me that screen?
Yes, sir.
There you go. Thank you. We got 4 out of 5. That's good. You gonna call me or you want me to start it? We're ready to go?
This is your show.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the ASOC committee meeting, where we will be having a couple items that we'll be discussing tonight. First of all, let me call roll call. Mr. Lake Dunton. Ms. Donovan Tavis.
Here.
Mr. Franklin Lamb.
Here.
Mr. Rhonda Bullock.
Here.
Right. So there's a couple of items that we have on the agenda for tonight. And the first one, I'm going to ask that we just review, you got a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting, or any corrections or any additions that we left off. If there's no correction or addition, I need a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Lamb, probably second by Mrs. Rhonda Bullock. Question or discussions?
Yes, sir.
Hearing none, take a roll call. All those in favor accepting the minutes, Mr. Lang Duncan,
Yes.
Ms. Donovan Tavis, Mr. Franklin Lamb,
Yes.
Mr. Rhonda Bullock.
Yes.
Thank you, appreciate that. So the next thing we have on the agenda, information only from the National Strategic Planning update.
Good evening, members of the Administrative Services, and I should shorten it like you did, and Operations Committee. We are before you tonight to share a mid-year update of the NASH 2025 strategic plan. As was shared in December, we have begun the year actually going through data and identifying 5 priorities that we are going to focus on for the next 5 years. Every department actually identified action steps that they would take as a department that would lead the district to achieve our priority goals. And so we have various members of our departments that will be sharing some updates on some of the action steps. So we will not go through the big presentation that we did in December with every individual action step, but we identified some high impact action steps that we're going to share with you today. So I did want to give you an update. In December, we did not have the balanced scorecard ready in Assembly. We have now got that live, maybe. In Assembly, there is a tab at the top of the platform, and it's called Planning. And when you click on that Planning tab, it will bring up the balanced scorecard, which is our key performance indicators. We have identified baseline measures that we are going to use, that we have identified as what our baseline is. Most of those have come from our 2019, 18-19 data because last year and this year we're a little bit different. And so we have taken those baseline targets and we have projected out over the course of 5 years what our targets are, and they are listed in the platform. There we go. So you'll see goal 1, Nash County Public Schools will increase grade level proficiency across all grades and subjects. And you'll see what the performance objectives and then each individual measure are. You'll see the baseline, which is again our 2018-19 data. And then you'll see targets for the 3 years are showing up here. As the 3 years go by, the additional 2 years will be populated into the dashboard as well. So if you click on next, it will take you through the remaining strategic goals. So strategic goal 2, Nash County Public Schools will increase the number of schools that exceed growth by June 30th, 2025, as measured by the school report card growth status. Strategic goal 3 is Nash County Public Schools will ensure equitable outcomes for all subgroups by June 30th, 2025. And you see several performance measures here. What we did in this goal was we looked at the difference between the all group and any other subgroup, and anywhere there was a negative difference or outcome, we added that as a performance measure for us to track. And so you'll see things not only related to academics and student achievement, but as you scroll down, you'll also see things that Mr. Farrow and his team are working on in terms of student discipline as well. Click next. There's one more in there. And the last goal that we have performance measures for is Nash County Public Schools will equitably staff and build capacity across all schools by June 30th, 2025. Okay, if we could go back to the presentation. And so the first action step that we wanted to share with you today was really the action step that is driving this process that we have in place for monitoring our goals and our action steps on a monthly basis. So the action step, district improvement data meetings will be held monthly with representatives from each district department to engage in the continuous improvement process. So we have currently just in the month of February, completed 6 action steps in Industar. And we have had 20 department meetings that included data-based problem solving. And so those meetings included not just the larger district improvement data meetings, but each department is also digging into data as a department. And some departments are looking at data with principals. And so that is all listed, or that is what encompasses those 20 meetings in the month of February. So what does success look like? We wanted to take some time to share with you how we'll know when we've arrived and those steps are complete and we need to maybe consider moving on to something else. And so for this particular action step, our monthly department meetings will result in ongoing progress towards our action steps. So we will see that number that has gone from 0 to 6 increase at a steady rate, so that we're completing action steps and putting things in place that are making an impact on our priority goals. And then ultimately, our priority goal targets will be met yearly. So those targets that I shared with you in the key performance indicator platform or in the Assembly platform will be met on a yearly basis. So now we can go on to the next one. We have Angie Miller here, who is going to share an action step from the school nutrition department.
Can I ask a question before we go to that one, please?
Yes, sir.
So as we look at the KPIs on these progresses, and you got data numbers that represent how you stand. How are you coming up with those numbers, and what would be
So on this or on the,
right here where it
Okay.
says 6 on for the dish improvement data meeting will
action steps and
Right.
InStart, yes. So we have got a large spreadsheet that we share across departments where every department goes in on a monthly basis and we put in the data related to our action steps. So we identified InStart indicators as being complete as a data point that we were going to look at on a monthly basis to determine whether or not we were making progress towards that goal. So for that particular one, I log into the NC Star platform and we just count up the number of InStar action steps that we completed that particular month.
So those are actually action steps.
Those are actually action steps that were completed in the month of February. And then for the department meetings, each department actually logs those meetings within that spreadsheet as well. And then I tally them up and put them up there. So you're going to see, as each of us come up here and share with you tonight, baseline data and current data,
Right.
that's all coming from that spreadsheet.
So basically that 20 that I see there were 20 participants,
No, there were 20 meetings.
20
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah, so each meeting had more than one participant.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Any other questions? All right, Ms. Miller.
Good evening. I'm going to
Good
talk a little bit about our action step with the meals in the classroom. I'm going to begin by saying that due to COVID, there will be some modifications of how this will look after we get back into the regular classrooms. We began the breakfast and the lunch in the classrooms for all schools to maximize instructional time. And we saw a significant difference last year when most all of our elementary schools were doing that. This will be a continuous improvement based on the organizational efficiency. But at this time, our numbers look different than what they will look like next year. Our number of meals served in July was 25,725. The number of meals served in January was 38,324. We do keep up with this on a day-to-day basis from every single school, breakfast and lunch. Keep in mind, we will be continuing the breakfast and lunch in the classroom till June the 30th. And during the time that we are having our Plan B, we do have drive-through service at all times, as well as breakfast in the classroom for the students. So we do have quarterly meetings to discuss ongoing progress toward these action steps. We make modifications based on the school's specific needs and data. We do meet monthly with the principals to ask if we need to make any modifications to meet their needs. Any questions at this time? Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. Mine is local control of custodial services. As you know, we brought custodians on board district-wide back in September. We're monitoring the effectiveness of local control of custodial services through quarterly rating process of highly effective staff. Baseline, we do not have a benchmark because we just brought them over. So we have a rating process right now of 0. We are doing a quarterly average score of custodian. The first one we did was back in December. And as a district out of 10, we scored an 8. Mr. Brown is doing each individual school is getting rated, and we're trying to set this up for quarterly 4-year. The quarterly monitoring of custodian improvement success will be monitored by improvements in cleanliness of schools and total cost savings of the program. So we're looking at compiling also the cost of contracting that out versus bringing the staff back in-house. Any questions?
Where are you getting the data from for the for the rating? How do you?
We have a score sheet that we've set down. Actually, it was a combination of Beck and SSC, the way they went in and done some of their ratings, even though theirs was a little skewed. Derek goes around quarterly to every school and shares that. And once he's finished, he does share it with the principal as well.
So are the schools themselves participating in establishing these ratings, what their expectations are, seeing that they're your clients or your customers?
Yes, what we do, and of course, the first one, we haven't had a lot of kids in the building, so the score of an 8 should be a pretty good benchmark score. So each custodian has an area in a school. So when Derek goes to these different areas, he scores the different areas of the school. So he'll sit down with the principal with the rating and discuss the areas that may need improvement, and the school gets an overall score, and then we average the score district-wide.
Okay, so the principals are participating?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, the payroll exceptions are our priority for this year to make sure that we end this fiscal year without owing the state. Our baseline data is taken from the licensure department, DPI's licensure system. And we take it every month after payroll is transferred to the state's system for upload. We started our baseline data with 69 payroll exceptions, and we are working diligently every month to make sure those are cleared up. As you see, there's significant change in the reduction of the exceptions, and these are non-licensure exceptions, which are due to budget codes where people are placed initially. It might not be the correct place based on licensure. Our success is, as I said, based on measure that by making sure we have cleared every payroll exception before June 30th, and thus we will not owe the state. So that is our measure of success. Any questions?
So we've seen a tremendous drop down on the payroll exception from 69 to 7.
Clearing them,
Right.
clearing them, that we have not seen.
How, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
We have not seen.
What they are still occurring, but we're able to clear them quicker than we had in the past years.
So are we looking at ways to eliminate them occurring?
Well, that's kind of difficult, right, for us to eliminate because the way they're coded sometimes when the person is hired, they're based on what is believed their licensure is, their license is qualified for. But once they're in the system at DPI, it may be, DPI looks at it and it may be different than what they will qualify for. So there's different criteria that causes these exceptions. It's sort of a check and balance when we pay people. So making sure that we clear them up within a 30-day period. That's my goal, is to make sure they're cleared up before the next pay period. In most cases, we can now that we're looking at them monthly, whenever it's a licensure, because we're in some cases are hiring beginning teachers that their license may be, I guess they may be in process of, it's not complete. So that's one of the problems that we're having.
Okay.
But we're working with DPI to make sure we are actually clearing any exceptions that we have, even those with licensure issues.
And let me share why I asked that question, because basically you're spending time in correcting issues that maybe you can catch up on. So it means if you look at labor time, what you're working through, and how you can possibly eliminate some of that to actually utilize your resources in other areas instead of stuff that we can correct off bad.
And we try to do that. But DPI's decision, sometimes
I got you.
we won't know until after the fact.
It's outside of your control.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I will present the action steps and the information based on the data for HR. The Human Resource Department will track department data and collaborate with the Finance Department to improve efficiencies. It falls underneath the support of continuous improvement, program evaluation, and database problem solving. We have our baseline data that has been gathered from September up until to date. And our current data states that we are meeting and incorporating data based on problem solving. We have had 4 meetings year to date. The number of exit surveys that have been completed year to date are 22. We have an average length of time to fill vacancy days each month within 30 days. Number of teachers that have left the district year to date, 13. Total number of teachers in our district, 921. Number of vacancies currently, 53. Number of state certified teacher vacancies, 21. Number of building administration vacancies, 0. Number of certified instructional support vacancies, there are 4. Number of teacher assistant vacancies, 12. And currently we have no vacancies for nurses. Success for our department would look like fewer vacancies and increased teacher retention rates. A balanced beginning teacher support mentor program to recruit, develop, and retain highly effective employees. Explicit processes and procedures. A welcoming, supportive, structured, and communicative environment for all employees. And this is supporting priority 2, 4, and 5.
Good evening. In academics and accountability, our action step focuses on targeted professional learning. This action step focuses on priorities 1, 2, 3, and 4. You'll see that we look at our learning walks and our coaching cycles, and from there we develop personalized training for our teachers. So how would we know when we've arrived? Our professional learning training will be job embedded. So what that means is teachers will have an opportunity to practice it while they work. It will be personalized based on what teachers and schools need, and it will be aligned to our focus areas, which are blended learning, building fluent readers, grade level PLCs, Letterland next steps, iStation data digs, our March Madness, and more targeted principal debriefs are things that we have facilitated this school year. Our next action step that we would like to celebrate would be school level data conversations, because we believe in operational language. So teachers and principals alike will know what priority reports to examine and how they would use what they've learned to improve student outcomes. Again, the priority standards are priorities 1, 2, 3, and 4. We will know that we are a high achieving department when data is transparent and safe. Problems of practice are established, and again, professional learning continues to be personalized, intentional, and data-driven.
Well, our last action step that we want to highlight is that Assistant Principal Academy. And that is that Nash County Public Schools will provide ongoing professional development for our assistant principals through the Assistant Principal Academy. We have a year-end target at the end of last year that we would have 9 professional development sessions planned for this year. Thus far, we have 6 that we have completed as of February 2021. Now, what does success look like with this action step? A pipeline of school executives will be prepared to provide safe and orderly school environments, recruit, hire, and develop effective staff, be an instructional leader who recognizes strong teaching and learning, and ensure school staff programs and environments promote high quality, program quality. And this action step covers all 5 priorities.
Good afternoon. I stand before you to present our action step of school-based mental health services. It was our goal to have all schools with a community school-based mental health support service for the 2021 school year. When we began the 2021 school year, there were 27 schools that had embedded school-based mental health services. And again, we wanted to increase those to all 29 schools having those services. Our baseline data started with the number of mental health referrals for the school year. We were at 1. Our current data is that we've had 77 referrals during the course of this school year. At the beginning, we started with 178 students who were receiving school-based mental health services. From July to December, there was a steady increase up to 190. The thing about school-based mental health services is that students cycle in and out of the services. I believe it's every 6 months based on the support that they're receiving and guidelines to the state. Students have to cycle off and then cycle back on their services, so the numbers will go up and down. All schools, what does our success look like? It would be all schools having school-based mental health services, which we currently have, and be a clear path for families to access those services, meaning that barriers are limited so that parents and students can receive the services in a timely and orderly manner without having to jump through too many hoops. Any questions for me?
Mr. Fair,
Yes, sir.
just a real quick one. That's to me, in layman, that's a huge jump in referrals. What do you attribute that to? Or is that just starting at a baseline, beginning of year, not exactly knowing what that number was going to get to?
Yes, sir. It was more so the starting the school year with 1, and then over the course of 5 to 6 months, having those referrals come in over 27, 29 schools.
Gotcha.
So when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's not that many. We probably would have had more in a normal year, but because much of the mental health services that students are receiving now is through teleservices, sometimes families are backing out of that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Good evening. As far as technology resources, the main focus of our particular action step was to monitor the technology needs of all schools. And at this time, the need was student devices to support remote learning. And as you look at our baseline data right now, where we started was 11,000 devices, 604 devices. Now, at that time, that may seem like a lot of devices, but at that time, we had a challenge with reliable devices as well as enough devices for all students. We also had a challenge of not having enough of hotspots that were distributed to families and students in need. So if you look at our current data now, we have about 14,871 devices that are checked out to our students, as well as we have approximately 600 devices that we have extra. And so I stop at this particular data point just to say that we are in a really great spot. We have not been in this spot before with adequate devices. And I say adequate devices. One of the other points that I wanted to focus on is our hotspots. We even have a spare amount of hotspots that we have in our warehouse. So at any time, as those requests come in, we can deliver those requests. Now, what does success look like? The availability of spare computers alleviates the time of students without devices. Now, we currently have that in place. Every school right now has 15 to 20 spare devices at their leisure. This right here helps when you have new students that come to the building, so they have a device readily available, or if there are students that have to turn in their devices for repair, then they have a device that is switched out that becomes their primary device, and it's available to them immediately. So that's something that we already have in place. And refresh devices for most of our staff and students. And we've been able to work on that plan. Looking down, skipping to the next one, the barriers to remote learning are minimized with the increased hotspot devices issued to families in need. So we are in a really good point. And as all the things that I said, it applies to all of the priorities, 1 through 5. Any questions? Yes, sir.
As far as the devices, are the students taking care of the devices that have been issued? And do we have much trouble with abuse?
Well, let's say this. I can report that the devices of the repair has gone down because we have new devices that we have given out to the elementary side. Before, the older devices that they were using, some of them have microphone problems, and they were just already in a bad state when they got them. But we're seeing the decreased numbers in repair with the new devices in place.
But the devices that have been issued, the students are taking care of the devices at home.
Well, not. Let me say this: there have been several reports of students, really kind of taking advantage and really destroying the devices, and we deal with those, one by one. But it's not a.
Right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, we are charging them. All right. Any questions?
Well, I just got a comment. One of my colleagues, we had this discussion at the beginning of this pandemic regarding computer systems.
Yes.
And she said, and you may want to talk to that. She wanted to know, how did you manage to do what you did while she's on the advisory committee and wait, and it was hard for them to just try to gather computers. And now when she hear you got excess computers, I know I get a phone call and says, hey, what did he do? So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I have a question, or Ms. Bullock, did you have one?
I have a comment. I would just like to say commendations go out to the technology department, because there are so many school districts who didn't have the vision that we had years back. And because of the things that we have done with our technology, we are in a very good place with our technology and our devices. And I would just like to commend the staff and the administrations for a job very well done. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Tremaine, just a quick question. Are there still some back ordered? I mean, in that 600 number, are there other devices that we will be receiving, but just due to the lack of availability, haven't gotten here yet? Or is that our total?
We have received over 6,000 devices. That's what we ordered. So we have received every device that we ordered. Yes, and we're not waiting on any. Thank God.
That's good.
All right, thank you.
Are there any additional questions? If not, the superintendent, oh, yes, sir.
As far as devices, I know, like Ms. Bullock said, we were well ahead. I know in the next couple of years, because I don't want us to be penalized for being so far ahead,
Yes.
that because we need new devices and the COVID money is available now, I hope we don't fall behind because we were so far ahead.
Absolutely. We have a plan that we've already talked about. And one thing I failed to mention, we're talking about the devices. We have devices available from pre-K to 12th grade. That is remarkable. Not a lot of districts can say that they have that available across the board for everybody. So I just want to put that out there.
So you know you'll be getting a phone call from Miss.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
And I'd like to comment, that goes back to, like Ms. Bullock said years ago, when this school board made that decision. In the past, it's always been, we would start with 2 high schools this year, and we would start with 2 high schools the next year, and we'll pass it down to maybe 2 or 3 middle schools. The people that were on the board at that time, we did it all. And that, you know, like Ms. Bullock said, that's benefits for our entire school system. And the job that the technology department has done to keep up with what took place years ago has been a burden, I'm sure. That's all.
Okay, if there are no additional questions, the superintendent submits this for information only.
Thank you very much. I would make a recommendation.
And I just have one comment, Mr. Sharp. You know, that's, you know, and I appreciate everyone coming in today and presenting this, because we want to make sure the board realizes this is about continuous improvement. We want to bring it to the board of some of the positive things that we're doing and what this group is doing in here. So that is why we're going to keep bringing this up, because we want to make sure this plan is updated, because in the end, we want to know, so how are we doing? So, and that's why I'm going to keep bringing this up and out simply so we can update and find out where we need to improve and where we're doing a pretty good job. But I appreciate the staff for doing that tonight.
So that's an excellent segue to my question that I was going to ask you regarding if we can make. Is that me? So one of the things that I heard all throughout this whole process, where we're looking at baseline and current data, But what I failed to see, but I saw in one, what's your target? You measure stuff by your target. You measure improvement by whatever target you set out before you. Every one of these items, I think if you have targets, then you can actually do visual graphs that you can see where you're coming along against where you are against your target, whether you're above screen or below screen. So I would like to sort of see if we can add a target for those different areas that we just had, that we just reviewed, see targets. Thank you.
And we only shared a few tonight, so we have plenty of targets we'd be glad to share with you.
Thank you.
One quick question, just a procedural thing. I know this is an agenda item. Does the whole deck get presented in full again at our meeting tonight, or is it just recommend? I mean, does it just come from us, or how does that look?
We will make a recommendation. We won't review this thing through its entirety at the board meeting. Okay. We'll make a recommendation because every board member has the opportunity to sit a part of this program. So that will cut that and that will sort of reduce that timing.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. All right, so that's for information only. Our next thing on the item agenda, we looked at potential demerger. So if you want to talk to that.
I'll start this off. So based on past conversations with county commissioners, I believe that was in December, the joint meeting we had, the Nash County commissioners requested what would it look like in terms of allotments, money, if we did have a demerger. So what the group did was we kind of formulated a sheet that would give us some estimates of each department. Talks about positions, local, state, but I'm gonna go back to this. It is just an estimate. So if you'll, I'm gonna cover these first two, which will probably be the ones we focus on. So you can kind of tell here, it talks about classroom teachers, how many positions presently, and then what we would lose, which would be the 118. Remember, these are positions based on ADM and allotments. So the state provides a formula of how many APs you receive, how many counselors. It's all based on a allotment based on how many students you have in a building. So you can just see from principals and APs with 68 months, instructional support, it's got CTE in here, And we've kind of pushed it down to positions and sometimes dollar amounts. And it'll actually go all the way to classroom supplies and equipment. And if you go further down, it just goes into some of each department, administrative services. If you go further down, we've then broken it to academics and accountability. And then you've got some student services built in here. So what we wanted to just show is this will be a working document that we use with the board if we were to start talking about this demerger more. So you would be aware of what's going to happen and what it would look like. I'm assuming the county commissioners would only want what local funds would be, would be impacted and be gone. So, and that would only be the capital outlay, and there's some issues up there. Okay. So that was just an information item. If you had any questions, I have the group in here if you wanted to speak to them.
So you asked it. Go ahead on, Dean, or Lane.
Has this been shared with the county commissioners?
No, sir. I wanted to bring it to the full board first because I shouldn't say clean it up, but there are some things, federal and state monies are not going to affect a local money. So we're just going to present it in a local type funding situation, and that'll be it.
Okay.
Any other questions? So we had discussions on the strategic update, the plans of potential demerger. If there's nothing else, we'll hold this meeting or this committee in session. Questions or discussion about what we've had or discussed? I need a motion to adjourn this segment.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been probably moved by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Lank. Any questions or discussions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Franklin Lamb,
Yes.
Lank Dunk,
Yes.
Donovan Chavis,
Yes.
Joanna Bullock,
Yes.
Bill Sharp, yes. I just want to commend the team for all your hard work and all your effort, and I appreciate the board for their participation. With that said, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you. Time well spent.